Welcome to Fix It Home Improvement, covering projects that every homeowner should know and great products for home and garden.
Hi, I'm JC, and this is where we share weekly home improvement tips. I'm here with my co-host Cindy.
Hello, JC.
Hi, Cindy. This week we're going to talk about repairing wood, soffit, and fascia, and we'd like to thank Ellen Carden for liking and sharing the podcast. The Italian word for soffit dates back to Palladian architecture, and this one's inspired by the designs of Andrea Palladio in the 1500s in Italy, and he was born Andrea Gondola, but he changed his name to Palladio after the Greek goddess of wisdom. So there's an example of early branding. And fascia dates back to a Latin word used for the vertical wood above columns in architecture. If you have wood fascia or soffits, a common repair project in a home is replacing those water-damaged sections of wood, because if you don't repair it, insects, birds, and animals can get into your house, and usually the problem's caused by leaking or clogged gutters.
What is the soffit and fascia?
So if your roof extends past the sides of your house, that portion is called the eaves, and it's made up of the fascia, which is the vertical length of wood under your shingles. And if you have gutters, they're resting against the fascia, and they're attached to the ends of rafters or trusses or to wood blocks or even a solid piece of wood like a barge rafter on the gable end of your house.
What is the gable end? Is that what you said? And barge rafter?
Right. So the gable end is the triangular side of the house formed by the roof, and a barge rafter is on the gable end where the roof extends past the side of the house. That barge rafter is going to be connected to the common roof rafters by either wood blocks or it can be attached to trusses. And that barge rafter could act like the fascia, or a thin wood fascia could be attached to it. But there's quite a few different roof styles, and you're going to see how the fascia is attached once you remove it. The soffit is the horizontal material covering the bottom of the eaves, and this is protecting the rafters or trusses. It eliminates easy places for birds or bugs to set up nests. And in some homes, you'll have open eaves. The rafters are exposed. But in most homes, they're going to be covered, and usually you're going to have vents in the soffits for ventilation, although there's a lot of different vent options for attics. And air flowing through the soffit vents and passing through the vents in the roof are going to help keep your attic cooler in the summer and help prevent ice dams in gutters and cold climates. So this is just a great system for any climate.
How are ice dams formed?
If you have snow on your roof and the main part of your roof gets warm enough to melt that snow, the water's running down to the eaves and the gutters, and because they're getting no heat from the house, it's going to freeze right there. And if you get enough ice in your gutter and snow is continually melting off your roof, it gets blocked by that ice, and then it can back up into cracks, get under your shingles, and it can cause leaks in your home. And if you do plan on re-roofing your house, you should think about the soffit and roof vents. Two popular styles are roof box vents and continuous ridge vents. So the box vents are installed over holes you cut into the roof. They have a low profile. Ridge vents are installed all along the peak of the roof over slots on both sides of the ridge board.
What's that?
So the ridge board is that main top board that rafters are attached to, or you're going to have slots between roof trusses at the peak. The ridge vents are very effective at allowing warm air to escape out of your attic in the summer, and the design helps pull air up through the soffit vents when there's a wind. And if you don't have adequate ventilation, it can void your shingle warranty. So buildup of heat under the shingles can damage them in hot conditions, and it can cause ice dams in cold climates.
So if you hire a roofer, they're going to address this with you?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, because they'll be looking at the warranty on the shingles, and they'll know how many vents to put in or what type to put in that's going to be most effective. Roofing manufacturers are usually requiring a minimum of 1 square foot of ventilation for every 150 square feet of attic area for traditional vents, like if you have a box vent.
Okay.
But you only need 1 square foot of ventilation for every 300 feet of attic space with the ridge vents, because they're that effective.
Interesting.
And if you're doing a roof yourself, this is something you really should address and re-examine, because if you have an older home, just by changing it to something like a ridge vent or adding vents, you're going to have much better air movement through your attic.
Okay.
If you're working on your soffits, and actually a good routine to have is checking that the vents aren't clogged or covered by insulation in the attic. especially in cold climates. You want your attic airtight from your living space and the proper amount of insulation for your area, your climate, but you want to make sure that there's air easily flowing from those vents up and out. You want to keep your attic space cold so it doesn't melt that snow on your roof and cause an ice dam. And when you're insulating your attic, you don't want to extend your insulation into the eaves. You just want to cover the living space, and you need to allow room for air to move through those vents.
I believe the title of this episode is How to Repair Wood Soffit and Fascia.
Yeah.
Are we going to get to that at all?
If you want to. So one of the things you're going to need to do repairs up high is some type of ladder, a good solid...
Stilts.
Stilts are the best. I like the platform ladders for projects like this, especially for your single-story homes or the lower portion of a split-level house. Werner, W-E-R-N-E-R, Gorilla, and Louisville have some top-rated platform ladders. You're going to need an extension ladder for second stories, and if you have a big project, you can rent scaffolding, which is going to make it safer and easier to work with power tools on second-story projects.
And you're going to look really cool.
The envy of your neighborhood. Depending on whether you have gutters or large areas with water damage, you may want to remove the gutters, especially if they're attached to the fascia and they're pulling away, and many are held in place by nails or screws. You're going to take your downspouts off first, and if you have a helper, you can work together to remove the brackets and then lower the gutter, especially for the aluminum gutters, which are the most popular. They're very lightweight, so it's a pretty easy project to do if you have long areas with somebody else. But if you're doing the project yourself, what you can do is you can use clamps and angle iron, so get large pieces of angle iron, and clamp it below the gutter in a few spots, and that's going to support it. And now you can go along the length of it and slowly take out the nails or the screws, and then you can lower it yourself.
Okay.
But if you have heavy metal gutters or long sections, or the hangers to the gutters are attached to the roof decking, it may not be a project that you want to do yourself. But once you have the fascia exposed, decide how much you plan on replacing. You're going to have nails or screws to remove. Most are going to have nails driven into the ends of rafters or trusses. You're going to use a hammer and a pull and pry bar to pull it away. If you have caulk that's sealing the fascia to the soffits, you're going to cut through that with a razor knife. And you may have to pry up a drip edge if it extends down over the fascia.
What is a drip edge?
So it's a metal roof flashing that extends past the fascia to help guide water from the shingles into the gutter. And they're now required on new homes with shingled roofs. And if you're replacing full sections of fascia all along a roof line and you don't have it, you can add a drip edge to help keep water from getting behind your gutters.
Okay.
When you remove the fascia, check for any damage to the rafter ends. If there's water damage, you may want to have it inspected by a pro to protect the roof structure. But if it's just the fascia, replace the wood. You're going to cut it to size with a circular saw, then nail it in place and caulk up any gaps.
What if you're cutting out a small section and not replacing the whole length?
So then you're looking for the nails at the end of the rafters, and I would use a square to make a vertical line right next to the existing nails. Use a reciprocating saw or an oscillating multi-tool, and you're going to cut out a section, and then when you replace that, you're going to have the rafter ends to be able to nail into. If you have water damage on your fascia at the corners or under seams just because of leaking gutters, if you catch it early enough, you can just remove small sections below the gutter. And I've done this on quite a few homes at the corners where we have leaking gutters. First thing you'd want to do is fix any leaks. So you're going to clean out the gutters, remove any old caulk or loose caulk, and then allow it to dry. And to seal the seams, many pros like butyl rubber caulk. It sticks well to aluminum, metal, vinyl, and plastic. And you can also get waterproof butyl rubber gutter repair tape. There's also a product called Lexel. It's Lexel. It sticks to almost anything, and it even sticks to damp surfaces. It's very good for repairing leaks in gutters. There's a product called Through the Roof, and this comes in caulk tubes or a small container. And what's interesting about the container is you can put a paintbrush into the Through the Roof and paint it over the seams in your gutter and kind of spread it out. So it does a good job on that. And it also works for any leaks or holes in your roof. And
well, I would hope so, considering it's called Through the Roof.
Right. And it's clear, so it doesn't show up. So it's not like when you're using like a black tar where it shows up on your roof. So that's a nice product too. There's a product called Liquid Rubber Gutter Repair Kit. And this comes with liquid rubber, self-adhesive rubber seam tape, and a foam paintbrush.
Mm-hmm.
So you clean out your gutter first, you put this tape over the seams, and it's rubberized, and then you coat this with liquid rubber. So pretty interesting product.
Is it clear?
It is black. So, and this is going to be used inside your gutter,
okay.
So you're not going to see it. And once you repair any leaks, now you can cut out a section of water-damaged wood below the gutter. And I like using an oscillating multi-tool. I had a bad experience using a reciprocating saw. I was cutting up vertically through the fascia, and I cut right up through an aluminum gutter. So then I had to repair the gutter.
Nice.
What I like about an oscillating multi-tool is you can use a circular blade and create your horizontal cut all the way underneath a section under the gutter, and even use the gutter as a guide. And at the rafters or the truss ends, then you use a straight blade to cut vertically, and it just makes it very easy to remove a small section.
Oh.
Use stainless steel or galvanized nails, ring shank trim nails with a small head, or finish nails.
What is ring shank?
So ring
How do you
shank...
just say these words and don't explain?
Ring shank has a serrated or grooved surface. It's going to grab the wood much better. So when you pound it into wood, wood kind of sinks into those indentations. It's going to hold much better than a smooth nail.
So you could use screws too, right?
Sure, absolutely, yeah. Screws hold the best. 4D, but for fascia, it's just easy with a nail,
right.
Especially a finish nail, because there's really no pressure on it, so it's going to stay up there. You probably use 4-penny or 6-penny nails, so you'll see 4D, which is 1.5 inches long. 6D is 2 inches long, and that D stands for penny, and the D came from the Roman denarius, which became the name for the English penny. Then it became associated with the cost of 100 nails. So 100 nails at 3.5 inches long cost 16 pennies. 100 nails 2.5 inches long cost 8 pennies. 100 2-inch nails cost 6 pennies, and 100 1.5-inch nails cost you 4 pennies.
Well, thanks for that information.
And when you're nailing very close to the end of wood like this, I always like to take my hammer and blunt the end of the nail, and usually it's going to help prevent the wood from splitting. If you have a very sharp point, it tends to separate the fibers of the wood, depending on how the wood's laid out. And if you blunt the end, it tends to punch a hole through it. And if you come at an angle too, it's going to help hold that piece in place, especially if you're just using a couple thin finishing nails.
Okay.
Some top-rated cordless multi-tools, and I really like cordless for this type of project, especially if you don't have a lot of cuts to make. DeWalt, Dremel, Fine, it's F-E-I-N, and Ryobi, R-Y-O-B-I. And some top-rated blades for oscillating multi-tools come from Imperial Blades, Dremel, and Fine. To replace rotted sections of soffit, you can pry out the nails and remove a section, or you can cut out a section, and it's generally going to be nailed up, sometimes screwed, but you're going to have 2x4 blocks, or you're going to have a 2x4 running horizontally, and then it's going to be also attached to the bottom of the rafters. Some of the soffits are tongue and groove boards, so you can use a round blade on a multi-tool and cut down the seam, and that's going to cut off that tongue, so it's going to be much easier to remove a section. And then to replace a soffit with matching tongue and groove panels, you can use a circular saw and cut off the tongue on the new piece, and then just slip it up and then nail it in place.
Okay.
If you have wood soffit or fascia, you should have a yearly routine to maintain them. You should check your gutters every year for leaks and repair those. You want to keep your gutters clean. If they get clogged and water overflows, it can damage the wood below it. And also the weight of debris in your gutters can pull the gutters away, and then that will allow water to get behind them and damage the wood. There's leaf guards like gutter brush and gutter stuff that you just put into your gutter, and that stops most debris. And both of these styles pull out easily if they get full of small debris, so you can clean them off.
Okay.
Check for any peeling paint. You want to scrape it, prime it, and paint it when it's needed. And then look for any cracks or separations in seams. You'd want to caulk that and then paint them. That way moisture can't get in, or insects.
Do you have anything else to add?
There's quite a few different types and styles of soffit and fascia. You could have molding or flashing you need to remove or work around. Make sure you're wearing safety goggles and a dust mask when you're sawing wood. But this is a pretty easy project.
Well, this is something that makes your house look really bad if it's water damaged.
Right.
And
yeah.
It's pretty easy to fix on your own.
Absolutely.
let's wrap this up.
You can subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, CastBox, Player FM, or your favorite podcast app.
If you enjoyed it, please leave us a review.
You can check out our home improvement videos on our YouTube channel, Fix It Home Improvement.
And you can subscribe to that as well.
You can download our books, Home Improvement Solutions, What Every Homeowner Should Know, on Amazon, book 1 through 5.
If you enjoyed it, please leave us a 5-star rating and review.
You can email us at fixitpodcast@gmail.com, and you can follow Cindy on Twitter at FixItCohost.
Thank you for listening.
Talk to you next week.